In the snow, a large sniper rifle was aimed at a distant target, and the trigger was pulled. His name was Jeremy, the guardian of this snowy plain. His task was to eliminate carnivorous animals that threatened livestock. Like any good man, after finishing his work, Jeremy liked to return home to warmth as soon as possible. Not long ago, he promised his son that he would take him to his grandfather's farm to learn shooting on his 10th birthday. Soon, the two set off by car. The grandfather was a Native American living in the Fongay ancient Native American reservation. Jeremy had an even more important reason for coming here. A few days ago, a reindeer at his father-in-law's farm had been slaughtered by a lion. As a hunter, Jeremy had to help his father-in-law solve this problem. Following his father-in-law, the two headed to the scene. After inspection, Jeremy confirmed it was indeed a lion, but what puzzled him was why the lion had killed the reindeer without eating it. Soon, the footprints on the ground provided the answer. It was a lioness teaching her two cubs how to hunt. Unfortunately, she had chosen livestock, which could cost her and her cubs their lives. There would be no mercy. Soon, Jeremy rode a sled, armed, and began tracking the lion. But when he reached the mountaintop, what he saw made him incredulous. Not far away, lying in the snow, was a person. Jeremy approached with his weapon, but when he saw the woman's face, he froze. It was because he recognized the girl. She was Kelsey, the daughter of his friend Jill. She was an outstanding girl. Seeing Kelsey on the ground, Jeremy felt an indescribable pain in his heart. Collecting his thoughts, he stood up and dialed the police. Soon, a federal investigator arrived. Her name was Elizabeth, and she was the new head of this region. Elizabeth wanted to examine the body, but in her current clothing, she would likely freeze before reaching the scene. Jeremy's mother-in-law reluctantly took out a set of clothes for her. Since this was her only granddaughter, she repeatedly reminded her to return the clothes after use. Soon, led by Jeremy, the group headed to the scene and arrived shortly thereafter. But seeing the victim, Elizabeth was at a loss. Since this was her first time handling a case, she couldn't find useful information on the body. Jeremy led her to a spot with footprints. Based on his judgment, the victim had run a long distance. Looking at the blood on the ground, Jeremy inferred that the victim likely inhaled a large amount of cold air while running, causing her lungs to freeze, then coughed up blood. The ultimate cause of death was probably a pulmonary rupture leading to internal bleeding. The victim had run barefoot, which might relate to the two nearby houses. One house belonged to drilling workers, while the other was home to a group of delinquent youths. The target was first locked on the delinquent's residence. The group then went to Kelsey's home to investigate, but Elizabeth was puzzled. She saw no trace of grief in the girl's father. However, when Jill saw her friend Jeremy, she cried like a child. Perhaps this was the side of Native Americans that they preferred not to show to outsiders. Here, the group found no useful information, so they focused their attention on the group of delinquent youths.